And here we go, clocks start, game 3, we're going the distance.
Time we were just checking what is really going on the other two boards, and it was pretty similar as a structure, how it started out, but there are some details we want to share with you with Peter.
Yes, and first, before we dive really deep into those games, first of all, they are quite slow. Yeah, it's a very tricky position. We talked about it, that with these bishops on d1, e1, d8, e8, normally the players have tremendous respect because you just don't know how to treat these positions. But one storyline we have to highlight, and what we have witnessed here in game between Aronyan and Sindarov, could have maybe happened in other boards as well, because I was keeping an eye on the team discussions, and after the move c4, f5, the move d4, which was played in the Levon's game, was analyzed by Fabiano, Vincent, and Levon, and they were concluding that the move c5, which is a very tempting and typical move, is nothing to worry about, because d takes c5, queen f4 check, bishop d2, queen takes c4, queen c2 takes. This is exactly what happened in this Armageddon game. Is very pleasant for white. Now what happened? Magnus, Abdusattorov, and Sindarov had decided that the move c4, c5 is a great move, and it solves black's position. And it was very interesting. I was very close to the camera. I was just following the discussion, and then Magnus said, yeah, and c5, and he's thinking, and finally gave the final verdict that yes, it's good. And believe it or not, okay, because Sindarov had very little time, so he kind of had to rely on the team strategy. Magnus, with 25 minutes on the clock, for sure would have paused at the board and would have never played the move c5. So teamwork, Levon, Fabi, Vincent worked to perfection for Levon. However, they both decided that instead of d4, they will play the move f4 for some reason. And both games, both players are taking plenty of time. Magnus opted with c6. It's very much in Magnus' style to open up his queen, targeting the f4 pawn. The same applies for white. The queen is also eyeing the f5 pawn. The rooks are protecting those pawns. That's not a problem. And here Vincent played knight g3, black played e6, queen c2, knight f6, e3, and we are having this slow battle in that match. But Fabi, and I want to highlight one more time that why these guys are playing, we talked about it, why these exact guys are playing this final, and why we think that those are the two best players in the world and they have to be in the final. Because those small nuances, look at this, what Fabi did. He plays e3, e6, he plays knight f3, knight f6, and he places the knight on f2. Well, computer-wise, it might not make such a big difference, but humanly, my heart automatically feels so much more happy with the knight on f2. The harmony, there is harmony in white's position, compared to Vincent little bit rushingly placing that knight on g3, which, who knows, maybe will become a liability for the future. So bishop h5 happened, d4. And do we have a move? No. This is the current position. I do feel like Fabi is fighting for advantage.
I also think that he has a very harmonious piece play so far, and also some space advantage with the pawns. So he plays very stably, I think, in this game. Everything is under control so far. Regarding the time, just a little bit more time than Magnus, so he's keeping this pressure as well. And, well, let's see how it gets unfold, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Judith and Peter, for that analysis and catching us up on this first-place matchup between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. Hard to believe an entire game has finished and been played, just moving past move 6 here, and not a single piece has fallen just yet in the battle between our top two here at Wiesenhaus.
Yeah. All 32 pieces on the board, Tanya, very tense. Stylistically, even if Fabi's the one fighting for advantage, who do you think is going to be the happier of the two.
I'm just super happy to see the aestheticness on that F line. Absolute symmetry and absolute traffic jam there. Let's just highlight that, a fully blocked line. But it does feel that white has got more space in the center, easier play. The queen about to come out D3, the bishop about to step over to C3. You will even look at getting your castle in where the rook will land on D1 once the bishop moves away. For Magnus, it's not easy to do the same. Where are you moving your queen? Where are you moving your bishop? And then are you ready to castle on the right flank, allowing a potential H3, G4 advance? Not easy at all. And it just feels with the space advantage, with the flow in the pawn formation, the breaks available to Fabiano Caruana, it is a very tiny edge to him out of the opening. And that's been the storyline in the first two games as well.
Right.
First one completely balanced, but the second it was Fabi always on the push.
And he's had fighting chances, tiny edges at different points in the game. Now it's just about capitalizing on them. And that's the thing. When you're up against Magnus Carlsen, and you asked it in the break between rounds 2 and rounds 3, you get one chance, maybe you get a second chance. Beyond that, it's a rarity that Magnus will ever open the door for you again. So if this is that final chance, you've got to do it here.
Exactly. And a really nice flexible move there from Fabiano, pushing his pawn forward just one square, just teasing Magnus, saying, okay, if you ever dare castle on that flank, then Tanya's idea might come into play, pawn to G4. Also stopping any knight exchanges. Since that F-file is so aesthetic, it's nice to keep the pieces all on the board. And yeah, no knight jumps for Magnus to alleviate the space issues. Magnus, yeah, he's struggling to fight for the center, so I think he would love at least one trade of minor pieces. What to do next? Again, like stylistically, with colors reversed, I would say Magnus is loving life. He can squeeze, it's very slow positional. He likes his blocked positions. Maybe Fabi likes them less, but if white is better, white is better. That's all he can hope for.
I'm also already eyeing in this slow strategic position and tense battle, you know, some potential tactical ideas, David, where when G4 does arrive, let's not point out the white queen is beautifully lined up against the H7 pawn as well. There might be moments when you end up trading the G for the H pawn with the white queen swooping all the way up there, putting a lot of pressure on Magnus's right flank.
I wouldn't be surprised, akin to the last game, to see Magnus go for a B5 right here. Ooh. I see your C4, I go B5. Ask the same question of Fabi. Do you want to trade? Do you want to push? And maybe I learn a lesson from the last time around and I create that extra square or space for my queen.
And you know what Fabi's going to say? I'm going to do what I did last time, exactly in response to that. I will simply move forward, gain more space, gain control over those dark squares that will be left behind with that move. I just don't think Magnus has easy choices to make in this position.
Yeah, I love how you're recognizing the patterns, though. This game, the queen also started on B8. Pawn also lands on the C4 square, so it makes a lot of sense. And just to put those on the board while Magnus contemplates what to do next, it's kind of pros and cons. White gains a bit more space, clamps down. The black queen still unable to really flexibly enter the other side of the board. This black knight can no longer leap forward. But on the plus side, black does get some light squares at his disposal. So it's a bit of give and take. It's the type of move Magnus probably wants to play. He's just weighing up whether he needs to rush. Maybe we'll see it a bit later on. The question is, what else?
Yeah. It almost feels like at some point you have to break, right? Get that V formation in. Try to get the queens out as quickly as possible. Yeah,
the pyramid, the upside down V.
It's not the flying V. I don't know what you, because it's going the wrong direction, but
V for victory. World Championship final. Is it B5? Is it not B5? The other way would be to maybe just wait, move the bishop, and decide to try and castle. But that's why I love Fabi's last move. It's a practical one. H3 might not create an immediate threat. We're not going to delve that deeply into G4 yet, but Magnus has to think about it. It's on his radar, and that's why Magnus has burned another 3 minutes off his clock.
And that's what a little move like H3 does, right? Magnus will have to keep in mind the threat of G4 at every moment. He will have to spend a few extra seconds calculating that, and look at that. Vintage signature Magnus moving the A-pawn ahead.
Well, were we expecting that? I guess now that it's played, like you say, it's not such a surprise that it comes from Magnus, but...
Does it all the time.
I'm so annoyed at myself. After B5, I ended saying, what else? I was going to say, maybe A5. That's more of a Magnus move, but I stopped myself because it looked so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
and now you can never prove otherwise.
Can never prove otherwise, exactly. Just, it's waiting, but there is a concrete purpose. He also wants to stop the white bishop entering this square, hitting the black rook, which might be forced to move, and black would never, ever be able to castle on that flank anymore. So, concrete reasons, but just played on general terms.
Usually when your opponent advances the a-pawn, the first thing that comes to your mind is, do you stop that advance from moving forward? Do you push your own a-pawn 2 steps forward? Is that something that Fabi will be looking at? Also creating ideas of a rook lift eventually to get that rook into the game. a5, a4, just block that pawn as a target eventually. Stopping b5 as well.
It's a stylistic thing. I think a4 is a very decent move, but maybe he'll be reluctant to allow a b4 square to become an outpost later for maybe a black bishop, a black knight. And yeah, it's also dependent on which side he foresees himself castling on. If the white king's going that way, then he'd be happy to push a pawn on the left flank. If he wants to keep his king on this side, maybe a bit more reluctant.
Yeah, get your pieces out is the feeling that one want to tell Fabi right now. Improve the position of the queen, improve the position of the bishop, keep the options open on both flanks, where you want to push your pawns.
Oh, slow game. Is it going to be one of those that only explodes when the players have 2 minutes left each on the clock? Maybe.
Still, not a single piece has fallen off the boards of either our first or third place matchups. And we can go to a 2-board so we can get kind of a picture.
Let's just quickly take a look what happened here, because we have seen this HC A5 moves. Magnus said, like, you really want to play G4? Well, I give you the chance to play it. And Fabi said, you know what? I spent enough time to believe that, yes, I can do that. And G4 happened, and now the game is heating up. The grand final is heating up. Takes, takes. The pieces are traded, and the H7 pawn is hanging at the end of the day. That was Fabi's idea. Now we see that if we just count the pawn islands, then white will have the upper hand, because 1 pawn island versus 2 pawn island with this weak G7 pawn. But there are a lot of dynamics in the position, and after bishop F6, the computer was saying that actually bishop C2 is kind of the most natural move. And it's typically when computer tells you bishop c2 is the most natural move, you believe it. Yeah, that bishop c2 is the most natural. However, if it was so natural, why Fabi did not do it? He retreated his queen to d3 immediately. This is the live action, and I just find it incredibly intriguing that in such a high-stakes situation, Fabi was willing to go for g4, believing that if this is the principal move, I don't care if this is the final, I will believe in myself. And Magnus, on the other hand, anticipated that, yeah, please go, and hits with d5 and gets grips on the light squares. Judith?
Yeah, I think queen d3 may have been an inaccuracy, because now bishop f5 seems to be coming with a great power, controlling the e4 square, the diagonal. So I would rather play bishop c2, and not only to cover the f5 square for the bishop, but also I'd like to castle already. I mean, there is no rush, but let's castle already. And for black, it will be not easy to castle, because, of course, he can move with his queen, Magnus, and castle. But then what about this a5? Is it something he's going to be happy with for a later stage? So let's see. The position is after queen d3, d5, where Fabi is going to be going with his bishop, and then bishop f5. So it's kind of tricky, because bishop c2 now, I think it's not going to be too good because of bishop f5, exchanging the bishop, and then knight d6, knight e4 may come to the center. So maybe there is a misplay by Fabiano, but let's see how it unfolds, because every move is going deeper and deeper in this game.
Thank you so much, Peter and Judith. I love the call out to Fabi, maybe recognizing, again, as we talked about, this is a chance, and a chance I'm confident in, I want to take. Now, whether or not some inaccuracies came to follow might turn to bite him in the end. But as the game continues to advance, we still await Fabi's next move to try and wrestle a victory away from Magnus Carlsen here. So far, just trading 2 draws apiece through 2 rounds.
And the big question here is whether Fabi has enough grip with a slightly better pawn structure that Peter mentioned to hold the balance. Magnus, it is his type of position. It's become quieter, strategic. There was that little tactical flurry, but Magnus survived it in good shape. Very strong bishop now, very strong knight, as Peter highlighted. Those need to be eliminated. And Fabiano taking more risks. And that is, well, to my eyes, a shocking decision, just because now, once black recaptures, I'm assuming with the e-pawn, just to keep the black king with a bit more shelter, there's going to be a backward pawn to stare down at. On an open file, he's lost a lot of flexibility. I don't think he even needed to rush with that decision.
And probably what Fabi is counting on to defend that is to plant a piece on e5 to make sure that at least that pawn can remain defended for as long as possible. Very surprised by this decision. Magnus doesn't immediately rush with the capture of the center pawn. He does take a decision to go the other way. And David, I see you're equally surprised as I am, but there are
Now
some
there's
checks.
3 pawn islands.
There are some checks being threatened right now on the C line.
Yeah, both sides thinking about some checks. Black would love to get a check in, get closer to castling. White maybe with some checks as well. I'll just go back. Sorry, Tanya, you have an idea now?
No, it wasn't the one that Fabi just made. Go ahead.
Question mark is it's good. It wasn't that decision then. Wow, strange decisions. This is getting very tactical suddenly. Just to go back, Magnus would have loved to take with the e-pawn, but as Tanya said, the knight could have jumped. Now this move is no longer available. That was why he wanted to lure a pawn away. That would have attacked the white queen. And bishop takes bishop now. There would have been some checks that needed to be calculated. Apparently this wouldn't have been good for white since the black king can just move, run, and hide. But this is what scared Magnus at least. Putting his king in front of his queen, normally never a good idea, but we have to break down the current position. A question mark, maybe a bigger mistake than some of the earlier ones from Fabiano. Now, for the first time in this game, Magnus has the advantage.
Knight on the rim is dim. I just don't really see where it's trying to go. I guess jumping forward to g6, but what does that accomplish?
For the first time in the game, the first time in the match that Magnus has an advantage right now. But can he cash in and make something out of it? Knight to h4. First question, do you keep the bishops on the board or do you trade them? If you have to keep it, I'm not really finding a way because yes, you can hit the rook, but the rook can hit the bishop back and then you're running out of squares.
Yeah, it feels like a 50-50 here and now. There's one move you definitely don't want to play, I guess, and that's to take the knight, because white would not take this bishop, he'd take the other one and start hitting some pawns. Black needs to fight for the light squares. I would say the most natural, as you point out, Tanya, is to take this bishop. I guess the king will take, and Fabiano wants to throw in some checks. And either now you have to let the white knight in, or if you take this knight, white does flick in this Zwischen Zug, this Zwischen Schach.
Unpleasant.
And next move takes the bishop, and the black king will be forced out into the open, maybe actually nowhere safe to hide now. So some tricks.
I want to say it's still legal for Magnus to castle all the way to the right side, but then is that really where the king is feeling safe? Yes, it's the long way across. With the G line open, the knight jumping onto G6, the queen landing on G6, I don't think that's a happy choice either.
Well, that's a good point. For example, bishop takes bishop, and now just to dodge the check, that could castle, but I mean, yeah. Good luck. Good luck with an open file near your king. Magnus does take the
You
bishop.
might see this happen though.
Yeah.
You don't want to walk into the rook check that you earlier pointed out.
It's the best move in the position right now.
To castle.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It looks like the only move as well. I think it's now easy for Magnus since this check looks so deadly.
You know, but then you're looking at the white rook coming to h1, h7 as a square for the white queen to land into the knight, jumping to g6. In fact, castle all the way in. After rook to h1, it looks like you're getting checkmated in 2 moves.
This looks terrible for Magnus. I'm really shocked. Just to point out, the last move was given a question mark because black's best, according to the computer, this is difficult, not entirely natural maybe, is to hit the rook indeed. Only when the white rook moves, then to snap off the white knight. And if the bishop recaptures, now you can drop back with your bishop and say, okay, I've conquered the light squares. More importantly, you can also give checks to the white king. This looks like a great light squared grip. Actually, in hindsight, I'm really surprised Magnus has dodged that. Unless there were some tactics beneath the surface, he dodged that option.
Yeah, and the evaluation bar not giving a bigger advantage to white in this position is very surprising to me. I mean, I need the help of all 3 grandmasters currently in our studio. You go castle, I line up my rook on the h line. How are you surviving that onslaught?
Oof.
Knight coming back, h7, knight g6, rook h8. Ideas if you move the knight away?
Yeah, knight jumps to h6 just to shut down the h file.
As simple as that, huh?
I have a feeling Magnus isn't going to go that way, though. I have a feeling he would rather move his queen out the way and tuck the king into the corner or towards the corner, but that also looks clumsy, to say the least.
Now, especially that the a-pawn has moved ahead, leaving behind so many squares, it looks like finding safety on the left side. Good luck with that as well.
Oh, big miss there from Magnus. Keeping on the light squared bishops not only would have kept black with a great defensive piece, but would have taken away one very important move from white. It looks like white's given up castling rights, yes, but more importantly, the check. So deadly.
Yeah, a bit of a miss there for Magnus Carlsen, but honestly, probably the biggest advantage gained here for Fabiano is the time advantage at this point. A massive think here for Magnus Carlsen down the stretch. Only 4.5 minutes to his name, still yet to decide on whether or not he wants to commit to the castle.
And I'm going to shout out to another thing that Fabi did. That knight move that got a question mark by our engines, actually practically a really good decision. It's not easy. It was not. If Magnus doesn't find the right move, the right way forward, you know that that's not easy at all. The bishop step up that you were talking about. The reason we are here is because of that question mark move. So it might not be the accurate move, but practically a great one by Fabi.
That's playing the human, not the computer, right?
Yeah, you're playing against a heartbeat.
He's trying to attack. That's what you need to do against Magnus. Keep queens on and attack. And whoa, Magnus has taken the knight.
Whoa, whoa.
What? This is a check? Where's the king hiding?
Has to, where is it hiding? It goes to d7, the b5 square we highlighted. The queen comes in. You go the other way, you take the bishop with a check. Wait, is this just lost?
There's absolute blood in the water. Can Fabi sniff it out? That's the question.
No, but this is just lost. It's check, 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 and you're busted.
If you go to the dark square, the bishop gets captured with a check. If you go to a light square, the white queen comes in. This check is...
What?
It looks so deadly.
No, but this doesn't make sense.
What has happened? This is self-destruction. This is...
Did he actually play that?
blindness from Magnus Carlsen. He took a knight. We saw it on the camera with his hand.
Impossibility for that to be a board malfunction.
Oh my, what?
That is the wildest blunder we've seen. We've seen some blunders that depend on deep calculation. This is just a one-mover.
I mean, it all,
Toast.
you look like you're getting checkmated or you have to lose your queen on the next move. And there we have it. The bishop on h4. And he plays
There
it.
it is. Rook c1 check. King quickly to d7. Now the queen needs to get involved.
The most normal, logical move in the position.
She's coming in onto the other diagonal with a check.
If white takes a timeout and captures this bishop, then black does have the time to control all the squares. The knight will come, cover the light squares, no more checks, no more attack. So Fabi will give this check.
Yeah, don't get greedy for the piece.
And we just highlighted those light square weaknesses right now. Fabi isn't rushing with the recapture. He, of course, sees the queen b5 move that you're highlighting right now. Magnus's king, not surviving this.
Is he going to march it into the center?
Oof.
Just sit, king of the hill, lead from the front. That normally never ends well. It's on a dark square as well. White has a dark squared bishop.
But maybe you're right, David, because I don't see a killer blow in that position once the king goes to the square that you're highlighting right now. Let's just put an arrow or mark it in red. Imagine Magnus with the king at the center.
Yeah, there's no killing blow, but I think then you can take the bishop on h4 because you've removed the square that the knight would want to jump to. So the queen check comes in, the king slides up. Now we're looking for that dark squared bishop to be snapped up by Fabiano Caruana.
And there is absolutely no way that Fabi repeats with checks in this position.
Could bail out with a draw here, Fabiano Caruana. He's slightly lower on the clock. So the professional thing, or the thing we often advise, repeat once, show your dominance, gain 20 seconds on the clock. Check, check, then take the bishop and smile at your opponent.
I suppose he has two checking options, right? c5 or b6. Both look about the same. King's going back to d7 either way.
And either way, you want to leave black with the king on the dark square, though, to take it away from the knight. That is the key. So if you give one check, you should probably give the second and repeat. But more likely, Fabiano, after a bit of thought, will just take the bishop. And there we go.
There we go. He picks it up. Massive winning advantage here for Fabiano Caruana against Magnus Carlsen in the third round of their best of four, looking to take an edge in this World Championship bout.
For the first time, there's no gambit going on as well.
Magnus needs a miracle. He's trying to trade off rooks. There are no effective checks here other than this one with the white queen. Whether that helps or not, unclear. But look at the black pieces. He's playing without a queen. He's playing without a rook in the corner. The king is out in the open. This cannot mean survival.
And the king has no way back. The bishop controls the e7 runaway square. The queen controls the d7 square. All Fabi has to do is activate the lone remaining rook on the f line.
Yeah, you can bring that later on the G file. You can maybe move your king somewhere and just defend your other rook. In the near future, the black pieces are going to get skewered on this diagonal.
Oh, that's a painful look on Magnus's face.
He knows. He will be in a must-win situation in the final game. Fabiano is so close now. This is the best chance he's ever going to have to win a World Championship title.
Yes, completely agree. You were asking, does Fabi get another chance? I think this is his last one, and he has to absolutely cash on this. It's this or not.
If he doesn't win this game, oof.
1 foot through the door, through the threshold. Got to get the other one through and shut it.
And we're just... 2 minutes. Will his nerves stand up to the task?
He looks pretty calm on camera, though. It's not shaky, but he's got to be feeling, right? The win is here.
Yeah. I think we all sense it. Just so illogical that black can survive with the king out in the open like this. In no world, surely.
What feels obvious to you? Is it just getting that king out of the way, connecting the rooks,
No, the
trading on my
F-pawn.
terms?
I love the
You
idea.
like the F-pawn?
I love the idea that you mentioned. I want that bishop check.
I love the f-pawn too.
Okay.
The downside is maybe that after a rook capture, the white king is forced out the way, the black queen will be able to step away with a check and maybe offer a trade at some point. So that's why it's just, there we go, keeping it simple with the king stepping forward, as Tanya said, bringing the other rook into the battle, so effective, and Magnus can barely move.
Yeah. And you know what? You've always got that F-pawn move ahead. So this is just classed by Fabi. He's not giving any chances to Magnus to get back into the game.
I mean, you say he's almost got no moves, and I'm scanning each and every piece. It really feels like there's quite literally no moves to be made.
I just can't understand what the oversight was, what he missed, Magnus. Did he think he could get his knight to this square, maybe, and sit on the light square's blockade? You can see his face now. He realizes the damage has been done.
Yeah. What do you do? Slightly improve that rook up to c6, say, okay, I'll still offer the trade, but on my terms.
The other plan that I see to try to ease off the pressure could be get that queen out of the way and offer a trade on that A line. Try to connect your rooks. Just get some development going, but do you have enough time? The feeling is not.
Yeah, time is so important. One more move. If Fabiano gets his pawn forward, opens up the dark square diagonal, it's a game over. That's a deadly check, deadly skewer. Black is going to collapse.
It's pressure on Magnus, hitting the 3-minute mark. His king on d6, the most active piece currently on the board for Magnus Carlsen, is the one that's going to go down.
If you could pick up that king now, put it on g8, game on. But unfortunately, chess doesn't work like that.
What was bishop takes knight by him? Just an unbelievable moment.
And we'll be asking that question till the cows come home.
Madness from Magnus. Can Fabiano punish? There's another threat of just trading off the rooks and bringing the other white rook into the game, hitting the black queen. And actually, I think there's checkmating ideas on the board. Tanya, your move, and boom, f5.
Straight away.
Joins the party.
Fabi was ready with his response, and that shows the confidence that he has in converting this one. Magnus begging for the queen trade. I think you keep the queens on the board. With that king, the way it's placed, you don't go into an endgame.
There we go.
We'll do just that. Queen slides back. Still has an angle to check.
That is a checkmate in 2 threat. A check, the black king goes back, and the white queen lands on a square where it connects with its bishop.
Oh, the stress on the face of Magnus Carlsen, searching for answers.
The thing is, Magnus often searches for miracles and finds them. And
Or creates them.
Yeah, it's not over till the last move is played against the world #1.
I mean, here he needs to play b5 or something along those lines to block the diagonal, but that just loses a clear tempo. White's going to open up the position even more, maybe with some checks first. There's going to be sacrifices. Oh, no chance, surely, to survive this. Magnus is desperately trying to find alternatives. Maybe the rook can come in just to block again, but superficial. Hand on hips, he knows.
Yeah, pawn takes pawn is coming in, the rook is opening up. The check that you pointed out, black's queen tied down to defend the b7 pawn. Magnus, where's he going to find it?
Just no time either. It's so much quicker and easier to see attacking moves than defensive moves.
And what a moment in the match this will be to take the lead with just 1 game remaining, 1 game away from a world championship title.
David said it. Best position Fabiano's probably ever been in to take home a world title. And it's against Magnus Carlsen. No one you'd rather do it against.
He played great in 2018 against Magnus in their world championship match, but never had a winning position like this. Never anything close to converting like this. This is what we say about Magnus. His one Achilles heel is he sometimes takes too much risk with his king. He sometimes delays castling so long, especially in Fischer random freestyle chess. But here we go, rook c4. He's going to try and block the check.
Best of a bad set of moves available to him.
He could even take this rook off, and the black queen cannot really take, since a pawn would be hanging. And there would be checks.
Is that Magnus's dream, that if you just take the rook, black takes back with the queen, you take the pawn, and then there's a forcing queen trade in the position. And Magnus plays down a pawn, but just hopes that somehow the Magnus touch in the endgame shines.
That's right, after rook takes rook, there would be a queen trade, potentially. I'll just show this on the board very quickly. This is how Magnus would survive to fight another day, even if he still is clearly worse in an endgame. That will not happen. Fabiano will not give him that opportunity. Very important detail there, Tanya. Rook takes rook, maybe not the best practical move.
It's actually a very nice move by Magnus. And Fabi goes the other side. He's opened up the f1 rook. You've got to take that pawn back, Magnus.
King takes pawn, surely. At least he hides on a light square. Problem is the white queen is coming. The white queen has got other avenues in.
Oof. Yeah, that's a really nice path in.
That's how to do it. Queen on light squares, bishop on dark squares. No hiding place for the king.
But then that might mean that Magnus wants to keep that pawn on as an umbrella for his king. But how can you let that survive? It's coming in with e7 if the knight moves away.
30 seconds.
Ooh, no time on the clock either.
Fabiano looks so calm. He knows. He knows now.
Calm on the surface, but probably bubbling underneath right now on the precipice of taking a full point advantage over Magnus Carlsen going into a final game. Heart rate to match as well, 139.
But 15 seconds, Fabi. For Magnus even. He takes the rook.
Ooh, now is a good moment. Queen takes is no longer so good. Queen takes, there will be a simple queen trade, and after pawn to d5 check, the black king will be driven away from its knight. Fabiano will have an endgame, up a bishop. The queen goes back though. Oh, a new angle, beautiful move from Fabiano. Game over. Look at the black queen.
Yep, classy touch by Fabiano here.
He's fighting, he gives a check, trying to create some chaos. He just captures back, calm and cool, and now the queen's about to step up.
Mm-hmm. She can choose where she steps. This check looks most natural.
But the knight's coming, David. If there's no check, check, checkmate, black's got some counterplay chances on the light squares.
Maybe the king's gonna hide literally in the center of the board in front of all of its army on the light squares, protected by a lone bodyguard, the knight.
What a position that would be.
Knight is a king's best friend, and this would be the best time to show that.
Exactly. Still praying for a miracle, but Magnus, that's a really instructive last pawn sacrifice from him. Two genius players against each other. He does have checks now, and he does have to keep an eye on this rook, Fabiano. He doesn't have two moves here in a row. He needs to coordinate perfectly.
And I think that's exactly what he's calculating. The queen comes in, the most attractive move, give a check. What happens if Magnus steps up in the center? And Fabi, it's not clear if he's finding a way forward there. Game's not over till it's not checkmate, you know? Especially when the knight and the queen are lining up.
Ooh, even Magnus looked like he was shaking a bit there.
Oh, yeah.
The nerves jangling.
Ooh, there it is.
Yep.
What a position.
D4 check. King jumps forward.
Okay, what a position. King on d5. The sole piece at the center of the board. Fighting against the majors.
Rook getting a little bit more involved now.
Big threat, pawn moving forward.
Very calm move, very strong move from Fabiano there, just joining his rook with the other attackers, and the black queen comes in.
David, if Magnus saves this one.
How did he survive this long? Fabiano must be getting frustrated.
I would
the
have
clock.
seen everything.
He can still force a draw, but he wants more than that, of course. A check would drive the black king back, and they could repeat.
Yeah, 3 options for checks, right? I could check with my pawn and my queen in 2 different ways.
Oh my God, but now Fabi's got 20 seconds as well.
The black king is hiding. The black king just needs 1 or 2 more moves, and it's going to slink away over into the corner. He does give a check.
And it's the white king that's feeling a bit bare suddenly, with a2 hanging.
Yeah, but he forces the king back out into the more precarious side of the board.
All right, do not repeat. Do not repeat.
Well, maybe repeat once for time.
Okay, just once.
How has he survived this long, Magnus? He's got his first threat of the whole game. Queen takes pawn. Fabi's running out of ideas, though.
I have a bad feeling for Fabi here right now. He's not finding his way forward. What is the way forward?
The only winning move is to go back and repeat the position and then find something new on the next move.
My goodness!
Advantage is somewhat gone, still looking good. He does defend this pawn, but now there's no threats.
He's back. Fabi's queen is on the defense right now. This gives Magnus one move to launch an offense.
He'll want to move his rook somewhere, anywhere. Just for the first time in this game, he's going back with his king. He's hiding.
It's the clocks. He's playing against Fabi's time as well. Gets across, but ignore that. The next move, rook's coming in. Rook E8.
This could turn. Like, if there's no knockout, if the black rook comes in and black keeps the grip on the light squares, it could easily turn. The pawn steps forwards, e4, advantage gone.
I cannot watch this. This is unbelievable. How has Magnus survived this and
Magnus
turned it
has
around?
time. He gets his rook into the game. Finally, the dead rook for so long is involved.
He finds the trick. Fabiano thought he could continue advancing. E5 would be an almost winning move if it weren't for black just taking that pawn off the board, and the white rook would have been undefended on the 4th rank. This is such a double-edged position now. Fabiano looks so frustrated. Magnus can start hitting the white rook.
And the point is that there are no more repetitions available for Fabiano either. Even if the bar says it's level, a draw is far way off. This is some sort of a dynamic, balanced position. Very difficult to play. I think give up the bishop for the knight if you get the opportunity.
Yeah, that knight is just too strong as a defender. He needs to get it off the board. But Magnus has one move. Does he save the knight? Can he move it? Or does he have something better?
How do you move it? The b7 pawn's so tender as well.
The only square would be this one, but looks clumsy.
Only two options that hold the bar at level here for Magnus Carlsen. Rook to f8, queen to e6. He finds rook to f8.
Keeps the bishop honest. The bishop taking the knight now would land a devastating check for Magnus.
And not just that, he's threatening the rook coming onto the 3rd rank, hitting the c3 pawn as well.
Oh, and
Oh my
Fabiano's blundered. Magnus has got to keep the queens on. And there
Queen
we go.
f1. It's instant. It's an instant find for Magnus Carlsen.
Wow, Fabiano, suddenly there's a nasty knight check in the air. He can't stop it. His rook is suddenly offside and loose, undefended. Magnus knows he's turned this around.
Fabiano Caruana is about to get checkmated.
I don't know how many times we've said it. Magnus Carlsen will
That's-
rarely ever give you a second
That's it.
chance. And if you don't close the door on him in that moment, you only need to give him one chance for him to take it across the line. Mate and 7 on the board. And Fabiano knows it. He gives up in the final moments. Magnus Carlsen from a dead position to winning in round number 3. Look at the face. He can barely believe it himself.
What did we just witness? That was crazy. Fabiano, I think we all were rooting for him there to deliver the final blow. He played a perfect game, just couldn't find the finishing touch. And Magnus, how often does he do this? The best defender in the world survives an almost hopeless position.
And how crushing for Fabiano Caruana on the other side.
Speechless. You know, you said it. Magnus didn't go looking for miracles. He created it on the board. It wasn't about defending. He checkmated Fabi's king. His own king at the center of the board. Looked like seconds away from losing that game. Unbelievable how Magnus Carlsen finds these incredible things. His chess just from another world.
Absolutely stunning finish to that game between Fabiano and Magnus Carlsen.
Don't know what to say about this. I mean, for Fabi, it's just unbelievable.